Okay, so unable to do the basics, Victoria had these crude bans that caused so much grief. Bans that were made necessary by its incompetence and the fact that it's been promoting this virus hysteria, as have so many people in the media, I'm afraid. Now, one of the most shocking examples of the cost of this hysteria and these border bans and all that has been the deaths of 4 babies at Adelaide's Women and Children's Hospital in just the past month. 4 deaths in the past 4 months. Babies who needed treatment for their heart conditions and they couldn't get it. I was joined a short while ago by Professor John Svigos, who's convener of a group called the Women's and Children's Hospital Alliance. Professor John Svigos, thank you so much indeed for your time. What happened with these 4 babies?
Well, unfortunately, in the last 4 weeks, we've had a cluster of babies that required resuscitation, and they really required the services of a cardiac paediatric cardiac specialist, and ECMO, which is a sort of like a heart-lung machine, which will keep the babies oxygenated while the appropriate surgery is performed. So we were not able to offer that at the Women's and Children's Hospital. As a consequence, we were then had to seek our treatment, as we do for these babies since we've been doing since 2002, to send them interstate, generally to Melbourne, but of course that's not possible at the moment, and so we've had to do it by a case-by-case situation to Sydney, to Westmead Hospital.
And how come these babies couldn't go to Sydney then?
Yes, that's correct, sir. So sadly, while we were waiting, the babies died. And that's where most of the mortality with small babies with cardiac defects or respiratory defects die. It's not so much the surgery, it's the waiting.
Now, why couldn't they go to Victoria?
Well, at the moment with the COVID-19, I believe that that's a restriction placed upon them and not able to do so.
And how much difference did that make to the outcome for them?
Well, one can never know, but one would have to assume that it made a difference. It would have made a difference. We were not able to offer them a chance. At least if we were able to transfer, then we would be able to offer them a chance.
And the reason they couldn't go to Melbourne, I presume, is what, that the hospitals weren't available, or that they would have had to go in quarantine on the return?
The whole thing, the whole COVID-19 just complicated the issue, has highlighted the problem that we have in Adelaide as being the only mainland capital city without a cardiac surgery or ECMO unit.
Well, that seems to me we've got 2 issues here. One, the fact that you're not resourced enough in Adelaide, and the second, that these bans, etc., made treatment of these babies in Melbourne impossible, which, looking at it as a health professional, do you quite understand why we have had virus bans that have caused distress like this, when you would have thought that had they been relaxed, they might have prevented more suffering than has actually been alleviated?
Yes, I'm not wanting to get it into to make this a totally COVID-19 argument, Mr. Bolt, because we have our own issues in Adelaide, and that won't help us in the long term. But yes, you are correct. I do watch your show regularly. I agree with all you say with regard to COVID-19.
It's such a tragedy. It must be so hard for medicos that are trying to deal with the families caught up in this nightmare. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you, sir.